Welcome to the Ask Faleskini podcast with a guest. I'm proud to present Angela Shurina from Cape Town, Australia. Angela aims to accelerate human progress towards a better world by helping mission-driven leaders optimize personal effectiveness and build high-performance teams to create change faster. She's committed to sustainable productivity and human potential. Angela helps you optimize your friction points, motivation and health, fitness, nutrition habits, time and energy management, inconsistent focus and procrastination, emotional and stress regulation. Of course, she also touches burnout, unmanaged anxieties, overwhelm, and complexity. Together with her clients, Angela builds simple systems and processes to deliver results consistently. Angela, please tell us more about yourself. What is your story?
Well, thank you first, Peter, for having me on your podcast. Really excited and honored to be here. So I usually introduce myself in a much shorter format. I help my clients to dial in health, productivity, and mindset so they can last long enough to succeed and progressively move forward. And I do that by, helping them to build systems, simple systems in the areas where they struggle the most. And that can be, for someone can be health, for someone can be their productivity, things like attention management or focus, or not being able to recover properly, take breaks, etc. And also a lot of it has to do with the mindset and navigating different stressors and challenges and this roller coaster of, successes and failures that entrepreneurial journey is sprinkled with everywhere. And and I do that through a combination of helping my clients to design environment that supports this new systems, these new goals, through a system of simple habits, and then of course accountability and tracking that I provide as a coach.
Okay, that is great. Our listeners would love to know more about how you can help them or how they can help themselves improve their results. You were talking about the systems. How do this system look? How would you put it more in a tangible way? Is that a list that they have to tick every day? How does this system work? How do they come to a system? How is that developed for them?
Yes, well, system will depend on a goal that a person has, something that they're working on, something they want to improve, specific result. And then that system will also depend on where they are in the process, because everyone starts their journey towards any goal in different places. Right? And then, of course, there is their life situation, their personality, this unique set of circumstances that they are in. And a system is something that has proven to work for that specific goal in your situation. And it has components, usually action steps, that one needs to learn how to implement in their life. Kind of creating a program that from now on gonna run a specific area of their life. And I, as a coach, as a mentor in certain areas, help people to figure out, okay, what are the smallest pieces of that system that gonna create maximum possible result, and that can be maintained by this specific person, right? And yes, system is a sort of list of actions that from now on we're going to try to implement in different ways in order to get certain result towards that goal that we are working on. Right? To give you an idea, because that's like a lot of me saying, but not very tangible. If someone wants to improve, let's say, their productivity, we're gonna look at their work process. And let's say they're struggling with focus, like their attention is just all over the place, and they multitask a lot and switch their attention, and something is always like getting their attention into different directions. Okay, so we're going to look at that process and ask ourselves, how can we manage our schedule? How can we manage our communication? How can we manage our devices in order to make focus easy and simple? And so then, for example, you're gonna start working, you're gonna start unitasking instead of multitasking, and that has been proven to increase one's productivity, right? And so then it's going to be a set of different habits in maximizing that scenario of a person being able to unitask instead of jumping from one thing to another.
Thank you. I would like to know your take on the biggest distractors. A lot of data shows that one of the biggest distractor on or in our working life are social media. What would you say that are other distractions that can occur in a work environment that are a real danger to the focus and result in less productive person and possibly in the long run in burnout?
Yeah, it's a great question, Peter. I think the biggest obstacle is not clearly communicating to the people that you work with what's your ideal schedule and how you prefer to work. For example, having the hours which are open door hours and which are closed door hours, like when you want to communicate with the outside world, with people, and when you want to be left alone. When you make sure that other people are aware of your rules and they know when is the best time to approach you, that eliminates a lot of these distractions. And that obviously might take some time. Like, okay, let's say you start your week and there are a lot of people reaching out to you at different times for different purposes. You can communicate with each of those purposes. Okay, I'd like to have schedule when I have more focused hours. So can we communicate at this specific time? Right. And the same also you can do with your family or your friends, your loved ones, right? You tell them, okay, these are the hours I'm not available, and maybe having a second phone for emergencies. So you tell them, these are the hours I'm available, and these are the hours I do my focused work. So let's communicate on that schedule. So the point I'm making here is communicating with the rest of the world. First of all, figuring out when you work the best, right? When you do specific tasks the best, and then communicating that to the world and figuring out where can you, like both people you work with and you can do your best work and where it's the best time to connect.
How important are priorities? We know that most people nowadays work on last come, first served. How important are priorities in order to stay focused?
Yeah, they're very important because our attention, our focus, our energy, our willpower, discipline, even things like creativity, problem solving, they're limited resources. And so if you start your day with low priority tasks and you spend most of your brain's genius on the low priority task, then when you get to the most important task, you have very little left and you're going to deliver low quality work that's going to lead to slower progress and less success in general, less success towards moving towards any of your professional goals. So priorities are important because, okay, you look at your schedule or your goal list and you make a note for yourself. This is one or, 2 or 3 main priorities for this period of time. And then you look at your schedule and you're like, how can I put them as early as possible in my day? How can I dedicate more time to those tasks? And also, ideally, you would want to start your day with those priorities and making sure that the most important gets done first and low priorities, can be done later or not done at all, and you'll suffer less consequences.
Thank you. So first things first is still important. Is there any tip how can we set priorities? So how can we prioritize? What is the simplest trick that you use because I know that I imagine that a lot of clients are all over this the place with with priorities. How can you help them prioritize? What is the most important task? How would you define that? How can our listeners know what is their most important task?
It's a little bit of deeper work with yourself. Usually a good way to start is journaling. Just simply, open up like a page of, I don't know, notebook or something and spending 5-10 minutes writing about what is important for my life right now. Let's say next 3 to 6 months. If I did that, what would make me absolutely happy about the progress, about, this period of my life's journey? And then you'll see what comes up. That might be some business project, that might be some personal relationships project, that might be your health. It is recommended not to have more than 1 to 3 priorities, because otherwise, like, you just spread out too thin. For me personally, right now, it's my business and the scaling and growing of it. So when I look at my schedule for the week, for example, I ask myself, okay, this is my priority. What can I do to make sure that I have the highest possibility to move closer towards the goals for that priority? And then I schedule things accordingly, right? Well, for example, my health and fitness, it's good, right? So I just maintain it. So I don't prioritize it. My relationships, my family is kind of also on good level, so I don't need to prioritize it as much. I just have, certain routines in place. And back to your question again. So the simplest way to start is just take 5 to 10 minutes, take a clear page in some notebook and just journal about that. Like, what's going to make me happy? And just also give it a deadline. Let's say in the next 6 months, or even by the end of this year, what's going to make me happy if I did just this one thing, or these 2 things? And then design your schedule and everything else in your life according to that.
Thank you for this great insight. I have another question that I would like to ask you. Since the COVID era or time, work at home has become more and more popular. But the more and more research indicates that people are far less productive at home. Why do you think people are less productive at home, even if they have much more freedom to schedule themselves as they want?
There are many different factors why people might be less productive. It's sometimes a little bit individual, but the main factor is that your home environment, for most people, home environment has always been something where they relax and they don't schedule much stuff, and they just kind of do this, do that, not much of any sort of routine or scheduling or structure. And when people started working at home, the brain still reads the same environment. It's like, this is the environment where we are laid back, relaxed. We don't need to be structured, right? And so a lot of people also never had that experience of being able to design their daily schedule according back to your question of priorities. Like, people never actually learned how to think for themselves, because they would just have a schedule, they would dress up, go to work, it was decided for them, they didn't have to think. And now all of a sudden they're in this situation where they have to structure a lot of things and design by themselves, knowing like how they work better. But a lot of people don't know how they work better, and so they end up having very little structure. And also that, again, the brain reads the environment and gives you the feeling that you are laid back, relaxed, that it's not time to work. And so one of the solutions to that problem, like having this trigger to feel more laid back and relaxed and less structured, that is recommended and very effective, is to have different areas at home where you work and where you do the rest of the stuff, like where you eat, where you chill and relax. And don't, for example, work in bed or in the chair where you usually watch TV, right? Or on the kitchen table where you eat your food. So have a dedicated place, even if it's like a corner somewhere with a small desk, but have a dedicated place specifically for work. And your brain, after a few times, will know, okay, this is the place where we're serious and we do the work. And once you get to that place, you're much more productive. Your brain literally starts releasing certain neurotransmitters for focus, for productivity, for getting things done, for like your brain chemistry gonna be changed. So yeah, a lot of people just don't create this distancing and zonality for work and for personal life. And then also, people start not designing their schedule. Like, for example, if you can work anytime, then you can work anytime. And so people, okay, I'm going to work a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit everywhere. And the brain never has this closure and beginning, meaning, okay, this is the hour we work. And let's say 5:30, we finish work. We close our computer, there is closure. Now we're in a different mode. So again, people just blur those boundaries and they end up having no boundaries and their brain is always confused. Like, what do we need to do now? Right. So to make it shorter, create different zones in your place when working from home for work and leisure, and then also schedule things. Schedule your work, schedule your social media, schedule your dinner and lunchtime, and stick to that schedule.
Okay. You mentioned schedule quite often. So I know there are like countless books written on the topic. What's your advice? How should an average person, not well versed in scheduling, go about their schedule? What would be the best advice? Where should they start?
It's a great question, Peter. And I believe there is a lot of flexibility and a lot of right answers for different purposes and people. Meaning, like, first of all, when you work, do you have flexibility to design your schedule completely free, or you have the hours that you need to work, right? So that's going to define a lot of things. The second thing, back to that priority question, what's the most important work you need to get done? So that you need to schedule earlier in the day. And then low priority tasks, if you can, schedule them later in the day. Then look at your day when you wake up and make sure that you have the time for, things that you do. I don't know, shower, exercise, like food. And then just schedule your work periods at the same time. So again, so your brain knows when you work and when you rest. And yeah, again, it depends on the person's flexibility. Like, to give you my example, so for me, I don't schedule anything till 12 p.m. This is when I do my deep work, my thinking, working on clients' files, my writing, my podcast. So this is how I schedule, right? I wake up, I do some movement, I have breakfast, and I work till 12 on those things. And then I have a short break, and then I do calls, I do the podcast, I do anything social. And because I know that, again, first part of my day is the most focused and productive, and I need to get the most important things done at that time. And then I can do the rest of the stuff. And then at the end of the day, for me, it's, I schedule dinner. I love taking a walk after dinner. And then I have either like studying or some social engagements. And that's because, these things work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And again, for each person, it depends.
Of extremely successful people schedule meetings after 12 o'clock, like you do. So
Yeah.
that might be a trait of a successful person. Just ask him when they want to schedule a meeting. And
Yeah, but it's
after 12, they're probably very successful, like yourself.
well, it's all about, again, back to that idea of mental cognitive resources being limited. And also, whatever comes into your attention, into your head first thing in the morning, that's what you're going to be thinking of, right? And so you want to start thinking on the important stuff instead of the rest of the stuff that is not as essential. And that's why also, it's the morning where we spend time on deeper thinking until the rest of the world doesn't, isn't allowed in to interfere. So
how important are morning routines and evening routines? Morning routines to plug in the day, and evening routines, you said you go for a walk after your dinner. How important is to unplug after in the evening after the busy day? And how important is to plug in the right way in the morning?
How important? I believe it's one of the most important things to know what gets you going and what gets you going and what also makes you recover sufficiently to keep going forever. That's, life is a marathon, business is a marathon. You got to figure out how to go nonstop as long as possible, feeling your absolute best. So morning routine for me is designed to get you going in your best mental and physical state. And it's been shown by neuroscience research that our brain chemistry is changed in a positive way for focused, productive work when you get some movement in, when you get some sunlight into your eyes, right? It's changes, it balances your circadian rhythm, boosts things like dopamine that are super important for our productivity. And so also blood flow, oxygenation is important for your brain work. And that's why there is movement, there is sunlight in my morning routine. And that's what I recommend to all of my clients. I call it morning kickstarter. And then, for me, and what I recommend to all of my clients, eating protein in the morning is also very important because dopamine, the drive motivation molecule, is made of it. So morning routine is important because it puts you into the best state when you can deliver your best work. And for a lot of people, it's going to be different, but what, again, research shows and how a lot of people feel their best if they do some movement, get some protein in, get some sunlight, and then start working on the important tasks. And the evening routine is designed to transition us into recovery mode and allowing our brain also does its best work when it has unoccupied time to sort of ferment all the learnings and experiences that we go through the day and start connecting the dots. Right? The brain cannot do that when we are actively engaged in solving problems or, doing something on our social media or just still very much engaged in that. And also it has evening routine recovery optimization has a lot to do with learning how to lower stress levels on a physiological level. And that's why for me, walks, nature are so important. And what I also advise a lot of people, do something that makes you feel relaxed. For somebody, it can be listening to the music, spending time also with their friends, with their loved ones, with their family. Simply taking a shower and doing 5 minutes of breath work. It can be different, but it's something that allows you to switch into rest and digest, and also allows your mind to disconnect. That's the most important thing. So you don't get the syndrome also tired and wired and you never can switch off.
Thank you. Great insight. What's your take on tea, coffee, and energy drinks? Should people avoid them or can they use them as a stimulus to improve their productivity?
It's a tricky question. All stimulants are not free. They give you something, but then they take something, right? And you want to make sure that you know how to balance that. So yeah, caffeine gives you the boost, but if you overdo it, that boost gonna make you crash. and then you're gonna want to have some more stimulants, and then your nervous system is always in stress state where when your cells actually spend a lot more energy, and that's a way to burn out if you constantly just pumping the system without allowing it to rest. So with all stimulants, you gotta know the dose. I love coffee. I drink it in the morning, but 1 cup is my dose. It puts me into ideal state for this like first part of the day. And then it's kind of wears off slightly and also goes into a more relaxed part of my day. And then it doesn't interfere with my sleep. So again, it's helpful to have it for some people. Some people also don't do that great with coffee or other stimulants. But then again, I always advise my clients, know your dose and don't overdo it. Make sure that you sleep well, and at night you can recover and you can switch off. And also, for example, for caffeine, not a lot of people know there is actually ideal dose for your caffeine that's going to put you into focus state, but not jittery and anxious. And it's about 1 to 3 milligrams per kilogram, per pound of body weight. And then, like you can Google like how much caffeine is in average cup, etc., and you can figure that out. So for me, for some of my clients, a couple of cups. For some of my clients, actually no caffeine, they just get jittery and can't focus at all, right? So it's tricky. Again, I guess I want everyone to understand that there is no free lunch in biology. If you pump something up, you will have to pay for that. And how much you're gonna, pay will depend on how much you pumped it. So yeah, use it responsibly. It's still a psychoactive drug.
Thank you. You mentioned burnout, and I know that you're an expert on a burnout. I would like to have your take. What is the best way to avoid burnout in business?
Yeah, well, that's a great question again, Peter. The best way to avoid burnout in business or in life is to realize that you're a human being. You're not a machine, not a computer. You gotta go through periods of rest. One of the biggest, rest periods is our sleep, right? So if you don't want to burn out, you just gotta dedicate time to recovery that has been shown to be beneficial or effective. What do I mean by that? Like, well, it is proven that 7 to 9 hours of sleep does a lot of good to our biology, right? And if you have great sleep, you can recover almost fully. A lot of course, entrepreneurs and business owners are like, well, I can skip sleep. I'll just keep working. And then you never allow your system, your nervous system, specifically your brain, to recover. And they just keep going. It's kind of like, I don't know, starting your engine and just letting it run without stop, right? It's gonna get broken much faster. So the same kind of happens to our nervous system. And then besides that, having this stress deloading tools and exercises and breaks throughout your day will help you to make your resources last longer, and also will help you again lower that stress level that actually makes one body and nervous system work harder. So what I mean by that, your nervous system can be in a state of stress or rest, right? And in a state of stress, it's using a lot more resources. What it means is your cells pump more energy, there is like more fuels used. And again, it's kind of the analogy is if you were to switch on your car on like engine on full and you would keep running it, or if you had like an air conditioner and you put it at the highest setting and you kept running it, right? So when you're in a stress state, that's what happens. You're running your whole system in this high gear that is very resource demanding, and it's kind of like pushing a lot of electricity through your brain and through your whole nervous system. And if you're always in that state, you're going to feel fatigued and tired and burn out much sooner. But if you, let's say, take breaks, doing things like walks or a little bit of meditation or breath work, that which allow you to lower your stress levels and switch more often into rest and digest, where you actually save energy. That allows you to, first of all, not feel fatigued and tired at the end of the day. And then second thing, you're not gonna have big chance of burnout. Because again, the ideal is to go forever, right? Last long enough to
I have a
succeed.
question regarding forever.
Yeah.
I've been in two different cultures. One was in UK, in London City. Financial guys, they all say work hard, play hard. So their stress out is to go party after the work.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that is sustainable?
No, actually, that, play hard isn't sustainable because it is not rest for our nervous system. So the main thing that burns out is our nervous system, right? It's just a lot of work to cells in our brain to communicate to each other. Our nervous system also allows the communication between cells, organs, tissues. So it's always kind of on. And when you play hard, when you go and listen to loud music, or I don't know what people do, or also, like, for example, if you drink a lot, right? Or just putting in yourself a lot of stimulants, it's a highly engaged and demanding state, and you're basically just accelerating the same thing. You're running your engine faster and faster, right? Even though it's like the activity feels like you're, I don't know, relaxing, but it's not relaxing for a nervous system. It's getting bombarded with all kinds of signals and stimulants. So instead, you want to switch it off. You want to ideal rest, you're in bed or on some beach and you do nothing, right? That's when your nervous system just relaxes.
Okay, a lot of business people still believes that they're gonna rest for the weekend, and they will even push through a lot of weekends in order to be more productive, and then they're gonna have a vacation. Most of people have 1 or 2 vacation weeks a year. Some have monthly vacation leaves, but more and more new science or scientific exploration show that not just that we need daily rest, that we also need intra-daily rest. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I also learned and listened to a lot of experts. And for example, a recent knowledge that has been, a lot of people are aware of, is that to do highly focused work, the work of really high quality, like if you are an analyst of some sort, right, and you need to analyze a lot of data and come up with really great insights for business, or I don't know, for some other purpose. So you need your brain to work at its highest capacity. In order to do that, your brain needs to, first of all, be recovered. And second of all, your brain can only do that, they say, for 2 to 4 90-minute cycles a day. No more. And 4 is pushing it for most people, right? For most people is 1, 2, and then kind of maintenance work. And in between those cycles, you need to give your brain rest by doing things that don't require focused attention, because that focused attention is what is so demanding and requires a special brain chemistry, glucose. There are different neurotransmitters. And there's just a lot. The brain is very hungry organ. It consumes 20+% of our energy. It's very robust machine. So you need to give it a rest in those 90 minutes cycles, doing something that doesn't require your brain, again, to create this state of focused attention. And those are things like nature. Like, for example, you can, I don't know, sit in a garden, or just even looking at a, I don't know, picture of nature can do a lot of good for that. Or just staring into the ceiling, actually also a way to recover, because that is when your attention doesn't do anything. You just kind of daydreaming and floating around. That is very restorative for your brain. And some other tools, breath work, right? When you do box breathing, or there are different breath works to do that are highly effective in those breaks. Another thing that became really popular recently, that is favorite, I believe, break of Sundar Pichai, CEO of Google. It's not yoga nidra or non-sleep deep rest protocol. When you basically lay down or sit down, close your eyes, and you scan your body, like from your toes to your fingers, and you go with your attention from one body part to another. And 10 minutes of that has been shown to recover a lot of those resources that we need for focused attention, right? So another one, taking a walk again in either in a park or maybe if you have beachside, just not a busy city street that is not as restorative. Also, again, listening to music, just taking a nap, also a great way to restore those resources. And then after that, with refreshed cognitive capacity, you can attack another task. And if you are able to actually cycle this throughout your day, you'll be amazed by how much you can do in those like highly focused periods. And then you take a break and the focus again, and you take a break and you focus. And also the key here is to, again, unitask, not multitask. If you're able to do one activity for a long period of time, your brain actually uses much less resources and you feel much fresher, even though you work long hours. It's all about resource distribution. You have one head, you have one body. The more effective you are with using those resources, the less tired you get, and also the less burnout you'll experience.
Thank you for all these great insights. Is there anything else you would like our listeners to take from this interview? Any quick tips or trade secrets that you can share with us?
Yeah, there are so many. I think the most important one is to learn how to control your attention, because in our day and age, people just always switch from one thing to another. I worked with a lot of entrepreneurs and founders in tech, and a lot of them, when I ask them, okay, how do you work? Just walk me through the process. They're like, well, I when I work, I have my browser open and it has like 28 tabs open. I'm like, wait, you have like all of this open at the same time with popping up notification and everything. It's like, yeah, kind of. Some of them actually have a lot of screens also with different stuff. I'm like, how are you even able to get anything done? This is like, for me, it's magic because I wouldn't be able to do anything. So the most important thing is to focus on one thing at a time. Even if it's shorter periods of time because of your work, for example, you need to communicate with people, still set a timer for even 10-15 minutes and just do one thing. And if you need to check your social media, the same thing. Just schedule that social media, I don't know, once an hour or whatever that needs to be, but don't be just mindlessly just jumping from one thing to another, because that's gonna make you tired much faster, and then also will not allow you to do high quality work. So if there's one thing I'd definitely start practicing as a skill, is doing one thing at a time. It's kind of becoming like a lost art.
Thank you very much. Where can our listeners find you, and where can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, there are many different places. I'm on Instagram and Threads, and I have a blog and a podcast. But I believe one of my favorite things that I've been doing for 6 years and probably never gonna stop is my podcast. And I encourage people to go and find my podcast, Your Brain's Coach. And I release episodes these days 3 times per week, talking about all these different protocols in health and productivity, neuroscience, mindset management. We have guests and we do book studies. So a lot of great things are there. So check out Your Brain's Coach, available on all platforms. And that's where you're going to hear from me more often. And what else? For all the other stuff, check out my website, brainbreakthroughcoach.com. That's where all the other social media and my offers for coaching also there. So those 2 places would be the best places to expose to my
Thank
work.
you. I will include both links in the description below. And thank you, Angela, for being my guest tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Peter, for having me. I really, really appreciate all the thoughtful questions. Just fun.